Welcome to Breaking Through the Contradictions. The goal here is to review some of the common contradictions we have lived and have had various conversations about and how it impacts various areas of a child's growth. We invited different parents, business owners, and friends to have a candid conversation on how some of the contradictions we live contribute and or creates larger barriers to supporting our youth. The views and opinions expressed by the guests, speakers, and participants in this context are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the organizers, hosts, or any affiliated individuals or organizations. We encourage open dialogue and diverse perspectives, but the individual viewpoints shared during this discussion are personal and should not be attributed to any collective entity involved.
Hey, I love that.
Hello. Kristen.
I love it. It just makes me laugh every time.
But Christine, let me tell you something. No, Kristen, let me tell you something. We just got finished talking about Christine. Kristen, when I heard it this time, I actually heard it clear, right?
Yeah.
Where normally I hear this hiccup in it. And that's why I was like, this is why I'm always saying, I need to fix this. Turns out
Nope.
I probably don't need to do anything.
It just works sometimes and not others.
Yeah, that's all good. So hello, my friend. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
All right. I think I need to turn off. I need to do something about some lights.
You were traveling. You get to be on the road today.
Yeah, so I'm going to be on the road today, but we cannot miss an opportunity to have this conversation.
Absolutely not. I'm on the road too, and I still felt it's too important not to. And anyone that's tuned in this month knows we're both on that rampage of we're going to talk about this, and people are going to listen whether they want to or not. We're going to make them pay attention.
All the things that we need to listen to, for sure. Yes. So today we are going so every once in a while I do these really weird things where I keep the banner up. I've never created, but today was that one day. So you got a sneak peek as to what we're talking about today. So here's the contradiction in it all, right? We need teachers, but the new Republican bill that is actually they're going over right now is suggesting to cut over 220,000 jobs, 220,000 teachers out of the classroom, remove them from the classroom. So
just blows
how
my
can
mind.
you need teachers, but then you turn around and you cut the positions? I'm just confused. I'm just curious. And I'm going to turn off my camera for one quick second, but go ahead and answer that question for me, please.
Sure. I think it's absolutely amazing that we're even having this discussion, that teachers, already have so many things going on. And now what we're hearing is, there's not enough teachers. We have, the shortage and there's so many openings, but yet this bill is saying, we can cut these positions. So my question is, can I call the bluff on we're just cutting these positions so we can say we don't have a shortage anymore? Is that what that's about? Or is it truly that they don't feel these positions are needed? Because I'm not sure who they're asking, because anyone in a school setting is going to tell you they need more, not less.
So the implications of reducing the number of teachers currently in in schools, right, yes, is that the class sizes automatically increase. Is that true?
Absolutely. It's going to affect class size. It's going to affect overall behavior and culture of the building, because less adults and less people to help manage students is just less, control in general on the situation that people will have. If a school has, let's say, 6 classes for a grade level, and they are going to take a position away at every grade level, when you think about it, it doesn't sound too bad unless you take 25 kids and disperse them over 5 classrooms, and all of a sudden everybody's got 5 more kids. I know from being a classroom teacher that 1 more student feels like extra. But once you pass like 3 or 4 extra, that's almost like having another additional class in there. So some of these class sizes are already ridiculously huge, even if we say, the student to teacher ratio is really, really small at that school. Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean all the classes are small. It might mean some of the classes are very small and have a good student to teacher ratio, but other classes, a lot of times like the electives or classes that aren't tested, have 30 plus kids crammed into a room with one adult trying to manage them. So I don't know. I wish I had a solid answer for what are they thinking here, but it's one of those, like, I'm just dumbfounded.
Okay, so let me be the bee in the butterfly patch. Okay. This is all about money. At the end of the day, when you take away this type of them, when you take away all of this, you're talking about money. We're talking about it as a business. When you remove the fact, the human capital of it all. So let's just take this journey with me just a little bit. So if we look at the situation and we say, okay, we have these teachers, we have 4 million teachers. First problem is more than half of them want to quit. So that becomes a problem of its own. But you still have all of these students. But I know that by the year 2031, they're projecting that number will drop drastically. You're talking about a 46.9 million children that they're looking at for 2031. Are they preparing for that? Is the question, type of a thing. But when you look at all of this, where is the financial win? And when you remove the human aspect of it, or the empathy about who it's impacting, then you get to see how you get to make decisions about hard things, because you don't have to deal with the feelings of it all, right? So if you knew that your children were going to be impacted by this specifically, and that your children would not have the ability to go out and to successfully take care of themselves when they become adults, would you still want to do this? Is the question, right? Is that something you want to do? But if you remove the faces and only look at them as beings versus as people, then you will be able to easily make business decisions by cutting positions, because you do not see the importance of the position.
Absolutely. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's a combination in some situations, but more importantly, lack of understanding of the importance, just not knowing how much it can impact, a setting and a culture when you change things like that. People that are making these decisions are not people that ever have taught in a classroom to know any better. They may have been a student in a classroom, but that doesn't mean anything compared to, trying to manage how many students are in there as the adult in the room. What I feel like this is doing is it's just that tipping point for, okay, we're not going to help support our kids at all. Once they're born, you're on your own. You got to figure it out. And we're just bridging, or, we're creating a bigger gap really between, our haves and have nots and our communities that are primarily people of color, as you know, that end up affected. And we are ending up in more and more segregated situations. I know the area where I geographically live is segregation by neighborhood schooling. And it's just unbelievable to me that we're moving backwards in these steps and people aren't seeing these as going backwards. It's just being allowed.
I don't think that they don't see it. I think that they don't.
I hope you're right.
I think they see it. I think what's happening is that it's not my lane, so let me only stick with what I want to pay attention. So you put your blinders up because it doesn't directly impact you.
Yeah.
But here, let me say it for the people in the back. It affects everybody, because when your neighbor's child is not able to be educated, that means that when it's time for you to we'll just say you're a business owner, right? When it's time for you to hire somebody, they don't know how to read, write, or dance with you. So therefore, now you have a problem. Now you have one less, 15 less, thousands less to be able to interview and bring in to be able to have a conversation to work for you. Okay, well, what if you're not a business owner? That's fine. What happens when you are an employer and a manager and you need to hire just simple operators, right? You only want to hire operators, ones who are just there to assemble. But because they can't read, they can't write, and they weren't given the right information, that means manufacturing has a potential of no longer having people to employ. So all of the devices we're talking about, just think of all of your smartphones, because I don't want to give anybody an endorsement. All of your smartphones, all of your electronic devices. I mean, and they're fighting about the checkouts, right? The self
Mhm.
checkouts.
Yes.
First of all, if I wanted to be an employee,
I would have gotten a job
store,
there.
I'd have got a job there. But wait, you're taking away the jobs from the who? Say it out loud.
Right.
The children, right?
Yep.
So all of this is playing into, we need more have-nots so that the haves can have enough, have way more than enough to then just say we can enslave everyone else. So
Right.
you're making it hard. You're taking away the child's education by taking away the teachers, but then you're not allowing people to want to go into teaching. Oprah talks about that all the time, right?
I just recently got my hair done, and the girl that does my hair, very young, sweet girl, my immediate reaction was, I could totally see this girl teaching, young elementary school, preschool age. She's just very mild mannered, and I said something to her about being a teacher, and she said, "Oh, I wanted to be a teacher, but I always knew growing up in North Carolina that salary was just not realistic." And she's right. She's absolutely right. I was just upstairs before our show talking with my parents. And when I lived in Montgomery County, Maryland, back in the early 2000s, I was making more money then than I'm making, was making 2 years ago in North Carolina. And I have 12 more years experience now than I did then. And it just blows my mind that I've gone backwards on the pay scale because I've moved districts to smaller, more southern, more conservative towns versus staying in a really large, big district with a union. And, it's definitely had a huge impact on my life in the way that things have played out and just my career. And I'm no longer in the classroom. And that's one of the main reasons why is I was miserable and killing myself to do the job, and it wasn't enough money to live off of. So why am I driving myself nuts to do this when I can't even live off it anyway? And that's what's happening. More and more teachers are going to say, this is for the birds. I'm out.
No, there are a lot. And there's a bunch of them come across LinkedIn, transitioning teacher. Anybody looking for a position, right?
All those transitioning groups. There's a whole new subfield for coaching now for transitioning teachers, which is the fact that we need coaches to help us transition is a joke, because the teacher couldn't be more qualified for half the jobs out there. And that just breaks my heart when I think about, when somebody said to me, well, what is your skill set? And I started listing out things. We really have a wide range of skills that we don't realize transfer so easily. And if more teachers realize that, we're going to see even more leave, and they're not going to have positions to cut again because they're going to be back to, we don't have enough people. And that's what's just terrifying to me. We're not supporting these teachers. And then whatever support we were giving them, those are the positions that are going to be cut first. All those support staff people, the staff development people, the behavior support specialists, the interventionists, all of the paraeducators. Yep. Counselors, social workers, all those extras. Those are going to be all the things that are gone first, putting it all back on the classroom teacher's plate. And
I challenge you. The extras. These are not extras. And I think that
you're right.
So I'm going to call you on that, Kristen.
You are right. And
not an extra.
Said that. You are right. It's just part of the job. You're right.
It is 100% part of the job. At the end of the day, a SPED kid is just as important as the average child, just as important as the gifted child. So let me help people understand. 220,000 teachers being removed from the classroom impacts all aspects. SPED is hit, looks like almost the hardest, but also gifted and the AP students are also impacted because they're taking the money away from them too. So be clear. Everybody's walking around saying, no, it can't be me. It's not going to be me. My stuff. That's not true. Yeah. Everyone is going to be impacted by this. And that's a lot. So we know, based off of the information, that when you have when students see at least one Black teacher, it improves the graduation rates. It improves absenteeism for all cultures.
Students need to see people they look like around them all the time.
But it also encourages them to go and seek that industry and to go and do and get that job.
And believe they can do it. Yeah, absolutely.
But here's the thing. For me, I knew right away. I was like, people were like, you should be a teacher. And I was like, teacher of who? And I'm not trying to go to jail. What's happening? And the reason why, the first thing I say is I'm not trying to go to jail, is that I keep seeing these doggone videos of them children popping off on the teacher,
Uh-huh.
and then all of us, and the teacher gets in trouble for laying
Defending himself.
hands,
Yep.
right? 'Cause that's
Yep.
all it is defending themselves. If they were in a street and a child jumped on them, they would have to defend themselves. So
Yep.
if they're in a classroom and a child jumps on them, it jumps on them, oh, you're just supposed to sit there and allow that to happen. So where do they do that? So I don't no one's going to just sit there and be beaten. So
No.
for me, I was like, no, I can't do it. However, I do recognize that I do have teaching skills, and
Yes.
I feel like I'm very I have been told, and my results are very clear that I'm extremely talented when it comes to training and teaching and assisting people along their journeys.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with that. I'll make no bones about that. But a child, I can do that too. We sit there and have conversations. I interrupt patterns. I get them to see things slightly different. I'm all about that.
Yes.
Parents,
Yep.
what this is saying to me for real is saying, I love a teacher because they are doing something that they love, right? Whereas I couldn't go, I love the children and I want to support them, but I have to take a different supporting role in their lives. And it can't be in front of the classroom. Because for me personally, you pop off, you going over in the corner. And if you want to sit in the corner, you can go down to the principal's office. But I'm not going to look at, my goal is I'm not wanting to suspend any student. I'm
Right.
not wanting to exclude any student. The student is always responding to whatever has happened to them, with them, about them, spoken, whatever. They're always responding. And it's unfair for us to say, I don't like your response, so therefore we're going to give you consequences.
Right. Right. And,
So I don't want to go now.
these kids are coming to us with less skills sets, and that's not their fault. But yet teachers are expected to just pick up where they are and move them anyway. And if you don't have as many hands in the building and as many resources available to you, the less likely that stuff is happening. And that the teachers are going to do bare minimum to get by because of survival. And, I'll be honest, I was one of those teachers that had to say, I love my job, but I love myself more. And I love my mental health more than I love my job. It was affecting my physical and mental health because that was in a position where I would show up at work and be told, oh, we're short a social studies teacher in 7th grade today, so you're covering so-and-so's class. And whatever I had planned had to go out the window, and that was it for the day. I was a substitute. And that was not what I had signed up to do. I had signed up to help severely disabled kids get interventions. And instead, I was constantly having to disappoint those kids and say, sorry, I have to cover a class again. It's sad when the kids started referring to me as their favorite substitute. Yeah. I was like, you guys realize I'm on the staff, right? And they were like, yeah, but you sub. And I'm like, but that's not my job. And they were like, oh.
We can't tell.
They had no idea. I mean, I covered for the front desk a lot. So some of them thought I was a secretary. Anytime the secretary was out, I was one of the people on the rotating shift, and I would have an hour and a half chunk that I had to cover. And, my kids would come into the office and be like, you can't meet with me because you're sitting here. I'm like, yeah, if you don't like it, go talk to the boss. I don't have any power. That's for sure. But that, we're already so underfunded and so understaffed anyway. And here we are having a conversation about cuts to staff moving forward. It blows my mind. Just blows my mind that this is even up for discussion. And then I know I'm on a rampage, so you just cut me off if you need to. But you know how I feel about kids with disabilities. Yes. Their needs are not going to go away. So you're going to take staff away, and you're going to have a compliance nightmare on your hands federally. And I know right now there's a big case down in Texas, in the Dallas area where you are right now, in Dallas, Independent School District. There is a huge big case about the fact that students who have disabilities were not getting their services. So now the district has to pay. Basically, they lost money because they weren't using it correctly, or it's almost like the slapped on the wrist to here's your payment for not doing what you're supposed to. But they also have to go back and make up what they didn't do in addition to everything moving forward. So if kids didn't get services, they have to offer compensatory services and currently provide services, and you're understaffed. So how are you going to do that when you couldn't give them services in the first place? So we're just like setting them up for more failure.
Yes,
and
yes,
they're
that
getting
right there.
fined and oh, you're not going to get your federal funding because you didn't do XYZ. And really, what's best for the kids? Or, oh wait, you're right, it's about following the money.
About the money. It's not about, so when it came from, so as a nonprofit or whatever one that they fall under, because there's a bunch of them, right? So my thing is that when they made it more about business and less about education, it became an issue.
Yeah.
And so here's the other thing. So this is where, so you're like me, this is where things get really, really frustrating for me. And I want to make sure parents understand you have options, you have choices, you have the ability to make a change now. And you say, oh, well, maybe by then something will change, or maybe they will figure it out. They don't ever figure this stuff out, because if your point of view is always pointing north, you never see what the South is doing. If you're always pointing east, you never see what the West is doing. So how do you know? Nobody else knows anything. So I'm on my soapbox because, as a parent of a special needs young adult now, my thing is that they have been trying to strip things away from these kids for so long. And I literally just went and had an ARD not too long ago. You and I had this conversation and we were talking. I was like, you guys are just, what are you doing? I don't get this part. These kids will see us die and still have to live here, but you're making it almost impossible for them to be successful in their educational life. And then again, after 18, they will be heavily reliant on someone else. So that means you give another person an opportunity to make money off of taking care of them, and then potentially not really taking care of them. Because we have seen a history of where people have taken special needs young adults and brought them in under a group home setting, only for them to take their money, lock them up, and do all these bad things to them. And these people are walking around saying, well, this is the person that's taking care of me, and my hands are tied, right? So this is all so not having 220,000 teachers removed from the classroom actually not only increases your class size, but it removes or reduces the amount of support that can be provided to your special needs student. Now, based off of what is happening and the growing numbers of autism and anyone on this spectrum, you are going to really need that stuff in place. If you don't have it in place and you don't have the teachers to facilitate and be the monitor and be the one that helps you, your student will not get educated. That means that we get to go back to the point where the highest grade level potentially may be 8th grade. Is that where we want to be?
Right. And that's the thing that scares the living daylights out of me. And I feel like we're just on that sliding backwards, like almost like you're trying to climb up the slide, that you can't get up the slide because it's almost like that escalator underneath you, and you just that movement. I can hear people on the other end of this camera right now going, oh, I don't have a child with special needs. Okay, fine. They're also cutting magnet school programs. They're cutting Pell Grant. They're cutting full service community school service programs for kids. Federal work study is gone. Supplemental educational opportunity through grants gone. Student aid gone. So it's not just teacher positions. We're taking away all this money to fund these other programs that are to better our community as a whole. So everybody's affected. And like you've said, these are the children that are being affected are the ones that will be taking care of my generation when we are in the nursing homes. And
they are not going to take care of us.
No, that's a good point.
They're not going to take care of us.
They aren't going to
take care of us. We did not take care of them. We did not successfully take care of them. We did not take care of their needs. We kept telling them that they were wrong for how they felt. We kept telling them that they did not deserve to have protection. We told them all these different things, but then we told them we loved them. right? We told them that they were important and they were our future. But then our actions and the next step after that became something of an attack on their future. We
Right.
want your future to be harder than what it needs to be. So we're going to put as many barriers in place that will say, okay, if you make it over this hurdle, you're the one that we need to keep. You're the one that you wanted it more than your partner. That's not true.
And that's not the way world works, or at least not a good world. So why are we teaching it that way?
Well, same reason why we teach pass and fail.
Right? That's true.
Look, I tell you, I'm going to be a bee in a butterfly patch today because this has to stop, because we have to. So parents need to pay attention to what's happening in their school district and area and what's being brought down. Now, this was brought to me. I didn't go and seek this out. So Christine brought this to me and said, "Tabitha, did you see this?" And I was like,
Do
"No,
you
ma'am."
know about this? Right.
And I was like, "No, ma'am, but this is a tragedy." And so we said, okay, we're gonna have a discussion about it. And the discussion is always meant to say, first of all, the contradiction exists in the fact that you are saying that we need teachers, and then you turn around and say you're cutting 220,000 teachers. That's what you're doing. And then all the programs that are and a lot of the programs that are associated with them. Right. So it really does have a tremendous impact on all people. So this is my example. You ready?
Yep.
Dominoes. I like a domino, man, but I don't always like them to play dominoes. I like them to I build all kinds of different things. So when I get in the mood sometimes, or I have a bunch of dominoes, I will build them out. I don't have a problem with that because I think it's kind of cool. And it's a chain reaction. That's what it is. So what I am saying is that this is a domino effect.
Yep.
If you reduce the 4 million teachers down by 220,000 teachers, and then half of them quit, this will increase your classroom size, reduce the ability for your child to get educated. You will probably not end up graduating high school. Some of them may not even finish high school because there will be no need, because their classroom sizes will be too large.
Yep.
And then at that point,
just wait until they're at age.
They'll age out. They'll go ahead and they'll say, okay, we'll just get our GED, or maybe they won't. But now we're running into a problem is now they become unemployable.
Right.
Because the rules are one thing.
Mm-hmm. I worry about that, not just with our kids with disabilities, but our kids that have slipped through the cracks all the way through and maybe never qualified, that should have qualified. But the other thing, and this is, I'm going to open another floodgate. We're not even talking about kids that are affected by trauma. And trauma looks like and mimics a lot of the same things that affect kids with disabilities. You know, a lot of the same things we would do for a child with a disability is something that a child with trauma would benefit from. So we're not even addressing the fact that more and more kids these days, whether they're in good homes or not, are coming into school with more and more trauma based on things they've seen or experienced, you know, and been through. And those kids' ACEs scores are higher and higher and higher. You know, just looking at, you know, the list of questions on the ACEs questionnaire, so many of our kids come from broken homes or a single family home where there's one parent working, or substance abuse is going on, or there's some kind of divorce or adultery and affair. You know, all these different things that are just normal these days that automatically qualify kids now as kids with trauma. And we're not identifying that. We're not doing anything to recognize that the kids coming into our room are not that same makeup that were in our rooms 10, 20 years ago. You know, even 5 years ago. You know, when I started teaching, trauma was like one of the last things I ever thought of. And as I've gotten further in my career, it's become more and more of it's almost like the new social emotional learning term, in the sense that all of a sudden we're paying attention to and seeing, I think the results of what happened with COVID brought it really to the forefront and made teachers see a lot more clearly how much kids were impacted by trauma, because we were able to see into the homes for so such a different, viewpoint, there for a while. And some homes that we couldn't get views into, it became very clear why there was no view in. Parents
Yeah.
were, or kids were intentionally not letting us in to see what was happening. And,
Why should
those
they?
red flags go off. Yeah.
There's no
It's
there's
fascinating.
no added benefit. There's no added benefit to that. But here's the other thing you just opened up. I don't think you realize. Maybe you do. But if you talk, so the invisible kids, there's an invisible group of students that actually show up in classes on a regular basis. When I say invisible, when I tell you who they are, the group in which they hold, you tell me if you believe this is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Homeless and foster. Those two. So I know there's foster homes for nothing but children who have been removed from their homes or don't have a home. This is just where they are. This is where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And those ones are invisible. So the fact is you are going to reduce the teacher staff, and you said counselors and additional support staff, and that impacts them. So that means that, hey, do you know the percentage of first of all, do you know the percentage of homeless students that your district had? And do you know the percentage of foster kids that your district had by chance?
I don't off the top of my head. My guess, just thinking about what I know from working with social workers and the counselors and the student population that I had, I averaged on a year as a behavior specialist 3 to 4 kids that were homeless at a time on my caseload. And I was one of 8 behavior specialists. So I'm sure there are other kids that were homeless that didn't require behavior support because they're the silent ones slipping through that nobody's paying attention to. I, of course, was being called in on the ones that were not being quiet and that were flailing up, especially on Fridays when they knew they had to go see their mom after school or have an appointment with, somebody. Or my other favorite was the classroom teacher gets a phone call and I'm in there helping support her for the student who's about to find out Jacob is no longer going to be seeing his mother after school. She's canceled her appointment. And this is said over the intercom into the classroom in front of everyone who knows that Jacob doesn't live with his mom because his mom's in jail. And now Jacob knows that he's not going to get to see his mom and he's going to fly off the handle and have a meltdown. And we're going to have to pick up the pieces and try and get him to agree to get on a bus at the end of the day. And at this point, the school day ends in about 40 minutes. So good luck. And I'm not making that up. That was a real life scenario that happened, and again, the adult meant no harm, but she had no idea what that simple comment did to blow up the rest of that day for that child and his weekend for sure. Social, emotionally, but also, it humiliated him in front of his peers and just highlighted he's not like them.
What on earth would possess? So do we not consider putting ourselves in someone else's shoes,
right?
How they will receive the message that we're sending? There are times in which some of the things I say, I'd be like, well, you could have said that better, but okay, I learned that didn't land on you so well. Right. So I'm not going to do that. But if I outwardly know that it's not public knowledge. You got 32 students in a classroom and you make an announcement like that over the intercom. And now the one child you pointed to now has 31 people who will now have the ability to bully him. And here we go. We have just introduced another opportunity for some type of classroom violence or a school shooting because that child can go home and say, I felt bullied. Mm-hmm. I felt bullied and I felt like I was wrong and I want to do something about it. So I shall go back there and I shall do harm to them because they made my feelings hurt. And I don't know how to deal with them because social emotional learning has been removed from class.
Right.
So these
and I'm in foster care and have no good role models. And every person in my life has done nothing but disappoint me. I'll never forget the look on that child's face that day. And I thought, what adult thought that was a good idea? And in all honesty, this person, very kind-hearted person who never normally would have done something like that. But it was the end of the day on a Friday in an office in an elementary school, and it was chaotic and busy. And she was just trying to get messages to people as quick as she could. And she just didn't think about it before she did it. And then it was like, as soon as she saw me coming down the hall with the kid, she realized, oh, I probably did that. That was probably because of my announcement. I mean, he made it known that that didn't go over well.
Yeah.
So, lesson learned. And, she'll, to this day, she'll never live it down. She always says to me, I can't believe I did that. We all learn from,
We
things.
all make
But
mistakes.
at the same time, stop and just think for 1 second. Put yourself in, like you said, put yourself in that other person's shoes and think, how would I want this news handed to me if I was delivering it? If somebody was giving it to me, what would I want them to say?
Yeah. So here's the thing I say, very crazy, but hope floats. That movie, Hope Floats. The one thing about the one statement that mom says, she's like, grandma says that your first 18 years are the best years of your life. And she says, no, ma'am, that's not what's happening. The first 18, yes, your first 18 years may be great, but you spend the rest of your life overcoming the first 18 years.
I love that. I love that. And that's so true. I mean, the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, I'm figuring out this whole world thing. Now I'm getting it. Why did I have to wait till my mid 40s to figure out, like, it's okay to say no to people? And you don't have to explain why. You can just say, no, I'm sorry, that won't be possible. I think that's one of the best things I've learned as an adult in terms of setting boundaries is not only are you allowed to say no, but you don't have to explain it.
Yeah, right. No is a complete sentence. That's what I've been telling you. And yes is also a complete sentence. And so I remember when we were in English class battling that out, and I was like, there is none of that. And no noun, no verb, no adverb. She's like, nope, it's just no.
It is. Yep, it is what it is.
Right. And so we get it. But all of that, my whole entire thing is that we're setting them up for failure by taking away things that they can lean on. So not only do they not have both parents, some don't have both parents in the home now, and then they have a crowded classroom. And then they now have, so then they have these additional challenges that are coming along. And and then the people that they can lean on, they can't lean on because those people are no longer available to them. Right. So I think that we really need to think about this. And I keep calling out on parents because teachers have been fighting this fight for a long period of time. And they've gotten to a point where if you think about it, this is the way I see it. Teachers have been not complaining. That's a bad word. My apologies. Not complaining. No. Teachers have been saying that calling out the wrong that they feel has been done to them. Yes. They made a decision to go into a position to educate our youth. And I commend them for that. I think that you guys are amazing people. I am so thankful that I've met so many of you. Now, what they're saying is that based on what you are asking me to do, it does not directly correlate to the money. The money doesn't match what you're asking me to do. So people have been calling that out for a period of time. Pay our teachers. You pay athletes more than you ever pay teachers, but teachers have bigger impact. But do they really? We can argue that a little bit later. But the point is that these teachers have been saying something has been going on for a long period of time and then saying, hey, we need some help. We need to do something different. And nothing has changed.
Right. And so part of that is we never view teachers as experts in their field. That's a huge component.
Exactly. But they have the biggest impact on a child's life. I'll give you an example when I'm done. But my thing is that we have to be better. So they've been saying this and been calling it out. So now it's time for us as the parents and supporters of these teachers and education, we either need to help them find another place to be to help educate our children, or we need to help them get the support that they're looking for from their management team and their school boards by calling out, we don't approve. We do not like this. We need our stuff in place. It's important for it here. We pay these taxes. At the end of the day, we pay the taxes to keep the school moving, regardless of whether it's a low income school or affluent school. The bottom line is there is tax dollars being poured into the schools. At the end of the day, the community and the parents and the families are responsible for identifying how they want their children to be taught and educated. And if they're not doing a good job, you're absolutely correct. So I don't think a lot of people know that. If your child is on an IEP and the IEP is not being followed in your schools, they are in direct violation of a law that in turn gives you the right as a parent to then go and challenge them plus the school board and potentially file a lawsuit because their child is not being educated. So let's be clear.
Yes.
That same thing is the same way for the parents. We need to lock arms with these doggone teachers and say, hey, how can I support you to get you what you need? And then if we can turn that tide, we can bring that number down from 55%. It would be nice for it to drop by 5%, and then let us continue to work on it to drop it over and over time so that we can then have excited and happy people wanting to teach our youth.
Oh, I'm sitting here just thinking too, we haven't even brought up, and I know, the primary point of this show is to talk about education. That's just one section of this bill. And Health and Human Services is affected, Department of Labor is affected. Multiple related agencies are brought up, but I'm just, scanning over it again earlier today. And at the very end of the bill, I literally did a jaw drop again because I hadn't read it word for word all the way through. And I got to the last 5 bullets. Did you see the last? It might even be 6 of them. It's in the section where it talks about the policy writers and how it's going to start banning policy writing. And one of the things that it's going to work on is helping to get rid of the people that are fighting to get rid of student loans. Okay, that makes sense. My other favorite is we're going to block funding for critical race theory. We're going to block, this is my favorite for sure.
It is funny. It's my favorite for sure.
Multiple riders to prevent policies or programs intended to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. That makes complete sense in 2024 that we're going to do that. And then, my other favorite is, of course, the importance of the number of people who can argue which flags can be flown over federal facilities, because that's important, because that's critical in this day and age.
Well, I have a hard time with the flag thing. I'm not really going to go into that because it ends up turning into some type of push-pull situation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the bottom line is the rules are the rules. There are certain flags that should never be flown, should not be part of our equation, but yet are still allowed. And I just don't understand how that is a contradiction. You can't say this is the rule, but I'm going to make you the exception every single time. No, then you're sending a mixed message, and those children don't understand the mixed message.
No. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You know what? I have to say, the one part of the policy writers that I really just didn't like, and this show is not just about education. So what I want to be, I'm so glad you said that.
Good.
This is about the contradictions that impact our children in their development. And their development can be anywhere. When you tell a child to shut up, you know what that does? They shut down. And when they shut down, then all they hear is this is not acceptable for me to have a conversation or say anything. So there are some children that shut down and then they never regain their voices.
Right.
And then we can't understand why they won't say anything, right? Because they learned that consequence was not a consequence that they were willing to continue to receive. So therefore they let it go. Right. So this is about all I'm doing. I brought this forward because I kept hearing people do these contradictions constantly. And then I would look at the kid and the kid's like, but I don't know which way to go.
Right.
And then I would see, and actually the parents do it too. No, yes, you can have the chocolate. No, you can't have the chocolate. Right. And the child's like, well, I don't know what to do. And I like this one video that I seen, a little boy, he was backing up. The dad was like, here, you can have the sucker. And he was like, no, mommy said no. And he was like, mommy's not here. You can take it. He was like, no, I don't want no problems. No, I don't want, right? So so whatever she said to him,
it stuck.
It stuck because he was like, I ain't taking no candy from you.
I'm not doing it.
I'm not going to be responsible for whatever this is. But that's what it is. So what we see is that contradiction. There, he's seen it, and he was like, I can't be on your side. I got to be on mommy's side because she holds the food and the happiness.
She's got the real power, and I know that.
So that's it. But when you look at how we are to live an example, so we are to live an example for our children to follow or use as a guide in their journey to whatever that success is going to be.
Yeah.
The problem is that sometimes we contradict ourselves without even realizing we're doing it. So I decided to come here and I did that. And I can say that at first I just thought, oh man, I'm doing this and this is going to be funny and people are going to think this is funny. And I actually think it's kind of hilarious, but I wasn't sure how it was going to be received. But I did receive a message from someone that said, based off of what you said, it started making sense. So they made a shift and they change, because you can't tell a child to have self-care, but then you make sure that you remove self-care from them and send them to school when they're ill. You can't tell them to take care of their mental health, but when they're telling you, my heart is broken, I feel sad, I don't know how, I just feel like I don't want to move, and you tell them, buck it up, buttercup,
you gotta get ready. You got 10 minutes. Bus is leaving.
What are you saying? You're saying that their mental health really does not matter to them. So that is the reason why I said, let's have these contradictions. And
I can immediately in my head, I'm hearing parents, but if I do that, then they're going to take advantage and they're always going to want to stay home. Nope. That goes back to teaching self-regulation and self-awareness and being able to identify, yes, I truly need to take that time. You know, if we don't teach them how to do that, they're never going to learn how. And they're going to become the adults that don't know how to recognize that they need to take a step back or take some time or whatever it might be. And
that. Yes, that. And now I'll tell you one other thing. Here we go. So the bill, the one that bothers me, I know the top one, the Department of Labor from implementing regulatory changes that would improve working conditions for workers in various industries. This is going to be a serious problem for everyone. And that even with the 220,000 teachers being removed from the classroom, you're like, how does this relate? This is how it relates for me. I don't know how it's going to relate for anybody else, but for me, this is how I see it. When you take 220,000 teachers out of the school, then all the things we talked about is going to happen. Potentially that child does not get educated the way that they would have normally been educated, right?
Right.
And then after that, what will happen is that they will then go into the workforce. And because they were not educated properly, all of the rules and regulations that would help to protect them will no longer be available to them. So therefore, now you will have an increase in workman's comp. You will have an increase in workers' accidents. You will have an increase on your medical. You will have an increase on your insurance as a business owner. There are a lot of things, there's a lot of implications to this, because you think just because it's in education, it's far removed from you. It's not, because what happens in 10 years, you will see the result of what is happening now. Because right now we are seeing what mistakes were made early on. Now the outcome is starting to show up. And that is why we're doing this.
Right. And, you know, I can still hear people in the background. Okay, but this is all hooey fooey. You're just talking about mental health. That doesn't really matter. Okay. Well, guess what? The bill also includes cutting all of your physical health needs too.
Yes.
So now when your mental health is in the toilet and you still can't recognize that, your physical health is in the toilet too. And now you've got no help at all, because that's a pre-existing condition and we're not going to support that moving forward.
So it's a lot of that.
It affects everybody. Again, whether you believe in this stuff or not, it's going to affect.
Yep, it impacts every person. And so this is the time in which you can actually use that blanket statement.
Yes.
This impacts every person, because every one of us need to be educated, and there is some part of this bill that impacts and touches each one of us. And so that becomes a problem immediately. What the heck? All right. So now we're here. We had this conversation. So yes. Hi, Sia. Just welcome.
Yeah.
So all I know is that we have lots and lots of other contradictions. The bill actually provides us information for the contradictions, because they're contradicting themselves within the bill, believe it or not, because it actually shows up in the bill that way. And so we'll have a discussion about a lot of those things, a lot of that for sure. So
I'm so glad Sia's here, because I think about her all the time from the standpoint of she and I are similar in age and don't have children. And she's constantly saying to me, I don't know about these things because I'm not, I'm not exposed to it. And it has so much impact on people like she and I that don't have kids. But if you're not tied to the schools, you don't know these things are happening. You know, you can't speak up against something if you don't know about it. So I just think
but that's a friends group.
Yeah.
So that's what those. So Yay, see ya. That's what a friends group is for. You don't always need to know it. You need to have somebody in your camp who is following different aspects of
Yes.
life. And then all of you come together and be like, look, I need you to pay attention to this,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I need you to pay
Bingo.
attention to this because by paying attention to this, this is going to impact you. You won't see it
Amen.
right away, but it will eventually impact you, right? And so then
Yes.
you have that. And then you don't have to worry about it. So Sia doesn't need to understand it, but when it comes to her, we'll give her the information necessary. And
Yes.
she said that
I
the
love
kids
it.
will take care of her hiney when she get old.
That's the
Yes,
problem.
Lord.
No, they're not
That's what
gonna.
she think. No, they're not. We're not taking care of them. They're not gonna take care of us. And
Right?
Yes.
Ugh. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And that's going to be the biggest issue. I think, our generation is going to pay the consequences of this bill big time when we're not able to take care of ourselves and there's no one to do so. There's more of us than there is of them.
For sure. Oh, yes, definitely. You guys are outnumbered. So we're going to wrap it up today. And we're going to come back again next week with another subject. But this one was a really good one, I have to say.
It really was.
And it brings up a lot of different points. And so I'm very thankful for you in the conversation today because it actually showed me and helped me understand a couple of things, right? Things that I wasn't always looking at, but now I can see slightly different. So I do thank you for that. It's been helpful. She's that's because all of you decided y'all don't want to have no kids.
Right.
I don't blame you. I'm not saying that I blame you. I'm just saying that's what happened. So the reduction of children are like, wait, pause. No more house. No, we don't want to buy a house. We'll just nomad our lives.
Right.
Nope. I don't want no kids. I only want one and done. There's a lot of that going on. But it's
absolutely. And I'll tell you what, one of the things too, I'm thinking about just listening to that piece there is, oh shoot, I just lost my whole train of thought. It just went right out of my brain.
Stop reading her messages. She would mess with you.
I know that's the problem. I'm paying attention to the messages and not focusing. It'll come back when we get off of here, I'm sure.
That's fine. That's
I appreciate Sia being here to let us talk about her. Oh, I know what it was now. That's it. Here's the real world of that. I always wanted kids, and I always said, okay, if I don't get married when I'm 35, or around 35, I'll have a kid on my own. And then the reality set in. I can't. First of all, hats off to any adult that is doing that on their own independently. Any father or mother that's a single parent. Hats off to them, because that was my wake-up call of there is no way I want to try and do this by myself. And two, I can't financially afford to do it. So even if I wanted to do it, I couldn't. And that was such a wake-up call to me of, I can't afford to have a dog, let alone kids. How am I going to bring kids into this world if I can't even make sure my dog's taken care of?
In that case, then we kind of know what we're going to probably talk about next week, because we're going to be having a conversation about living wage.
I love it. Yes.
And the children. Oh, wait. Or maybe we should talk about the checkout. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So
we got so many options.
We got so many options. So we're going to go ahead and sayonara. Shout out. Yes. Shout out to the single parents. Love you, Rocky. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. And enjoy your time tonight. I'm a little jealous of you ladies.
Yes. We're going to let you know. We'll send you a picture. I even look
at
my hair.
Yes. There you go.
I'm screaming. But everybody, it's been great. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. Yes. Thank you, Sia, for dropping by and go ahead and giving us some messages. And I hope everybody can get, they're able to receive enough information to be able to start having a conversation. If you're interested in joining our conversation live, just let me know. Go ahead and send me a direct message. But until next time, words are power. Remember to use them wisely. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest in discussing a contradiction or would like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message.